Welcome everyone to the Proven Knowledge Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Church. I'm a music producer from Northeast Ohio. I began this weekly interview series to give you different perspectives from artists, producers, engineers, and other individuals in the music industry. In each episode, we touch on not only what has helped the person succeed, but we also touch on what has shaped them into the person that they are today. I hope you're able to gain some real proven knowledge from the show, and that it helps elevate you on your own journey to success as well. Let's get into it. Welcome everyone to episode 207 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. Today I welcomed back R&B singer Reesie Woods, who originally appeared on episode 108. We had an awesome discussion today. If you had heard the first episode, he had moved from his hometown of Gary, Indiana to Atlanta, and currently he's moving back to the Chicagoland area. So he talked about what that transition has been like. He also talked about the lessons that he learned, both good and bad, from living in Atlanta for the past couple years, the connections he made. Had an awesome story about being offered a record deal and how he handled that. We also talked about what he learned from the project that he had been working on at the time called Ego Off, Soul On. Talked about his latest single Blackberry and the chopped and screwed version and how that has helped him in the last couple months. Overall, I always love Reesie and his ability to stay true to himself. I think that's the biggest thing we can do as artists is just be 100% authentic. And you'll hear in the story I was talking about earlier, you'll hear how that shined through for him. And I think it's super awesome. I've never had anyone share anything like this on the show. So definitely, listen to it and hopefully you'll learn something from it. So without further ado, let's get into it. So welcome everyone to episode 207 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. Today's guest is returning from episode 108 back in 2022. Great singer-songwriter. Love this guy as an artist. Please welcome back Reesie Woods. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Doing great. Like I said, man, short notice. I know I hit you up a couple days ago, but I'm glad to have you back and just kind of reintroduce yourself for those that might not have heard that first part that we did. Let people know, who you are and what you do.
Yes, I'm Reesie Woods, R&B artist, singer, songwriter. I hail from Gary, Indiana, and I've been doing music now for professionally almost 7 years now. And I actually hold quite a few titles, actually. Again, singer-songwriter. I'm designer, entrepreneur, a plethora of things. I just like to consider myself an all-around creator.
Yeah, and I do remember the last time that we spoke in 2022. I believe you had just moved to Atlanta at the time. And you were kind of getting settled in and things were, kind of happening in that regard because you were talking about moving from Gary, Indiana to Atlanta. And it's like a culture shock, to an extent. So, how has that been? Are you still in Atlanta or have you moved elsewhere? What's that been like?
Yeah, so I am currently still in Atlanta. I'm actually, it's so funny that you called me. And we're doing this interview now because at the beginning, when we first interviewed, I was actually moving. Now I'm moving away again. I'm moving from Atlanta. I'm actually moving back to the Chicagoland area. It's just where I'm most happy. Mm-hmm. And honestly, it's just about me giving from a place of abundance and not continuing to give from an empty cup. So. Yeah. I definitely want to do what makes me happy and be closer to family and just do what's best for me. So again, Atlanta, I came out here and I made a lot of moves, met a lot of people, and made the connections that was necessary to make. However, it's just not for me, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. And I think it's good because I believe we even discussed that the first time around. It was like having the change of scenery, like just being able to go and do something like that and just see how it goes. You know what I mean? And I think just you being able to have that experience is still good. You know what I mean? Even though you're moving back, I think it's like like you said, you've been able to build all these connections and do all these different things in the last couple of years. So I'm sure you'll look back on it and be like, yeah, I still made the right decision to do that, even though it was just a brief chapter of your journey. But to be able to, have that experience, I think is super cool. And but I agree with you. I think you got to do what's best for you at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And the beauty of being able to do music now is that you can do it from anywhere. And I think for you, because you've been working so hard, and I know you've been doing more podcasts, you've been doing more content and music, you're just going to keep shining no matter where you are, man. So I think it's super cool that you've been doing this. And what do you think, else in the last couple of years has been like a change for you? Because I know that a lot can happen in that time. Has there been anything else that's kind of been like a milestone, or maybe even a challenge that, you've had to get through recently to keep things pushing and keep things moving?
Yeah, so I would say the beauty about moving somewhere differently is the trials and tribulations that come through it, but also the end of that. So basically, the trials and tribulations, you know what I'm saying? When it was up, but it was down, it was down. But ultimately, just looking back over the entire experience of Atlanta has been a beautiful experience, and I've learned a lot about myself. Now, one of those is one of the pros of Atlanta was I was actually offered my first record deal, and that's something that I did not even see happening anytime soon, if I'm being quite honest with you. So, and how it happened was I was just on Instagram one day, and this was when I released Ego Off So Long, the project back in, I released the project December 2022, and then this was early last year, January of 2023. I had an A&R reach out to me, and this person's label was specifically through Universal Music Group, and they began to listen to my music and different things like that, and saying that they loved what they were hearing, and actually arranged something for me to come in and meet the executive and everything. So I sat down in the office. It's the most craziest thing. It's just a full circle moment, because I'm literally walking in and I see on this wall all of these great people, these amazing people that he has met, and he has on his wall. Like, I'm looking at B16, Janet Jackson, all of these different people on the wall, and I come in and he's literally blasting my album. And I'm looking at this guy react to every song that is playing off of the project, and I'm just like, wow. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's different to see, friends and family and, people who stumble across your music. It's different seeing those reactions, but when you see someone who is within, who has, power, who has means to be able to take your music to a next level, react the way that he did, it's just like, it's a full circle moment, because it's never something that you would think that you would see as early as I am still doing music. So that was one of the pros in regarding Atlanta. And one of the cons, I would definitely say just trying, life be life. Life be life. So you are going to come across certain struggles as an independent artist, and if I'm being quite transparent, it takes money to make money,
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? So with everyday expenses and things like that, and being an independent artist, it does get hard in a city where, it is extremely fabricated and everyone is putting on a front to be someone, and not saying that I was doing that, but I'm really trying to navigate my life and my career and me being a musician from a very authentic place. And to me, Atlanta is not what aligned with my core values. Atlanta's a great place, but as far as what's out here, it's just not for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, man. Like we said earlier, you just got to stick to what's true to you. Because at the end of the day, you got to live with every decision you make anyway. So it's like, why would you want to do things just because other people are doing it, or because you get told you should do this? It's like, no, you got to do what's right for you. And I actually didn't know about that story either, with you having that meeting. So that's pretty interesting. Did that end in anything, or like how did it like play out with that whole situation?
I'm glad you asked. It actually, so I actually ended up declining the deal.
Yeah.
As far, I was very grateful for the opportunity and everything like that. I just think that it was just confirmation on what God could really do and how He could really show up in your life, and it was just letting me know. I really think that opportunity was letting me know that, like, I'm doing the right thing and I'm going down the right path, and just to keep doing what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, the deal wasn't the right deal for me, because what he was offering was a lot of training that me personally, and it takes an evolved person to say this, but me personally, I did not think that I needed all of the training and all of what he had to offer me.
Yeah.
I didn't think that it was necessary for me, I was a music major in college, and I had been doing this for quite some time. So the only thing I really think I really would have benefited from was, honestly, vocal lessons, because you can always get better at your craft. You know what I'm saying? But as far as media training and different things like that, I think that more so he was trying to, in all due respect, I more so think that he was coming from a place of control instead of me being my own artist and having my own creative control.
Yeah.
And I did not necessarily want to give up my own creative control and my image, because, again, I'm all about authenticity and I'm all about remaining true to who I am and my morals. And it just really wasn't in alignment with who I was as a person.
Yeah.
And who I am as a person. So.
Yeah. And that's commendable, man, because I know that, especially if it's someone's first time getting an offer like that, I feel like a lot of artists would be kind of starstruck about, the gravity of it and being like, wow, this is like a huge opportunity. And they might just jump on something just because they feel like, it's going to help them, or they might feel like they might not get that chance again, but they're not like looking at the big picture. For you looked at the big picture and you're like, this isn't going to be good for what I have and my values and what I see moving forward. So you made that decision, which I think is great, because now you have that power to keep going, and you never know, like something else could come along that's an even better situation, and it aligns with what you're looking to do at that point in time. So yeah, I think that's great. Absolutely. Man. So congrats on that.
Thank you. Yeah. And it wasn't I wouldn't say that it kind of put a bad taste in my mouth or anything like that. I definitely think that when it comes to certain situations like that, you just have to base it off of right then and right there in that moment. And if it really just truly resonates with you, if it's not a resounding yes, then, and it's not coming from the most positive place, mm-hmm. then, you know what I'm saying? It definitely deserves to be thought over, Yeah. So yeah, I didn't think that it was necessarily for me. And prior to me declining, and he had the best intentions, you know what I'm saying? But again, it just wasn't for me. But it was more so he kind of was saying certain things, and these were red flags in my eyes. But like, oh, I know that you could really, you have the ability to develop your voice like The Weeknd. I can hear you sounding really good over this type of instrumental and this type of instrumental. And to me, it just seemed very manufactured. And him telling me what I wanted to hear or what he thought that I would be receptive to. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. I know how to play the game too. You know what I'm saying? So you go in and people just think that I'm just this innocent new artist, you know what I'm saying? But I come from a background of music. I'm educated, you know what I'm saying? I know all of the tricks and things. I'm very business-minded. So when it comes to how you are pitching to me and different things like that, there's certain red flags that don't sit well with me if I am an artist, or I am an artist who is very, very intentional when it comes to my image.
Yeah.
And what I want and what I feel as though I bring. And if I feel as though that might be suppressed, then I don't think that it would be a good business or partnership moving forward, you know?
Hey there, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I just wanted to take a quick minute out to let you know about a couple different ways that you can support the podcast. One of the ways is by clicking that support the podcast button within your streaming platform. That is if you want to be a monthly supporter of the show. You can contribute either 99 cents, $5, or $10 a month. So that's the first way, and that's the more traditional way that we've had now for the last couple years. The other method that we actually just recently introduced is from our good friends over at Ko-fi. Ko-fi is a virtual tip jar. We have set our limit to a minimum of $10, but you can go make one-time, one-off donations. So if you visit ko-fi.com/the Proven Knowledge Podcast, you'll be able to donate. And all these different forms of donation go towards getting new guests every single week, getting potential sponsors on board to do giveaways, and overall just making the show better for you guys. So if you want to do that Ko-fi link, it's ko-fi.com/the Proven Knowledge Podcast. Otherwise, again, look for that support the podcast button in your streaming platform if you'd like to be a monthly supporter. And I just want to say thank you guys for your contributions. And without further ado, let's get back into the episode. Yeah, man. And that's how exactly how it should be, honestly. And yeah, I think it's like it's kind of like the shiny red ball method. Like they dangle all these things in front of your face, like, hey, look at this. Like you want
Right.
this, don't you? But it's like you said, if you know exactly what you do and you trust your process and you trust how you move as a brand and as an artist, you don't need all that stuff. You know what I mean? There's no point in even doing that. So yeah, I totally agree with how you handled it, man. And I think a lot of people could learn from that, especially if they are in a situation like that or they might be in one soon. So thanks for sharing that, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for allowing me to do that. Because, yeah, I think it's really cool to kind of like share that perspective, especially coming from an independent artist. And I haven't been doing this for, you know what I'm saying, a very long time. You know? So, yeah.
Yeah. So let's shift to the music now for a little bit. And I know the last time we talked, you were basically finishing up Ego Off So On, and you were getting ready to drop it. And then I remember you releasing the project, and man, it was a great time. I think I had you on the AMP radio show. We did like the listening thing. I feel like we did that around that time. Like it was a cool experience. So what do you think you've learned since that time, as far as, you know, creating songs, crafting music, and what do you think you learned from that whole era of time when you were doing the project?
Yes, we actually did quite a few. We did quite a few things, Anthony. It's been fun. I would say that what I've learned since that entire album making process is honestly to create, because I've really been intentional with giving from a place of abundance in my personal life, and I actually wanted to reflect that in my creativity and also in my music and just things that I do on the entrepreneurial side as well too. So when it comes to my process now in regarding making music, it's more so just kind of really authentically displaying an experience from my life and really making sure that I am 100% putting that into my music. And when I released Blackberry, Blackberry was, to me, is one of the best songs that I've ever done. And I'm not just saying that because it's the most recent song, but I think it's the best one because I really, truly 100% stand behind putting or displaying an experience and kind of cultivating that and displaying it for the world and for people to relate to and be inspired to it as well. Yeah. Seeing the way people gravitated towards Blackberry has been really amazing. And I been really intentional on really displaying true, authentic experiences, whether it's my own or whether it's someone else's.
Yeah, I love that, man. That's super, super
Yeah.
awesome. And I think that just keeps evolving as you grow as an artist, too. I feel like no matter what you're trying to put out, like it almost gets more refined with each release. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, so I definitely can see that. And that also leads me into a question, because I was going to ask you about Blackberry, because I know it dropped, the end of last year, right? The first version of the
Yes.
single. And you just did the chopped and screwed version, like recently, that you put out.
Yes.
So like, how did that come about? Because I'm intrigued about that. Like, where did the idea come
Yes.
from to do that version of it?
Okay, so okay, I'm excited. I like to talk about this. So I had dropped Blackberry November, I believe it was November 11th. So it was right at the tail end of 2023.
Hmm.
But since I dropped Blackberry, it had always been kind of like these random spurts of like streams. Like 1 minute it would be like when it first released, it was just like it was going crazy. And then it kind of plateaued, and then it went crazy again, and then it plateaued. And then January hit, it goes crazy again, and then it plateaued. So I'm like, really? Like, so I'm just like, okay, so let me just keep the momentum going.
Hmm.
But I don't really necessarily know how to really keep that momentum going. You know what I'm saying? Because I haven't worked on anything new just yet. I'm still in the beginning stages of a project, right?
Yeah.
So I don't feel comfortable releasing anything just yet, you know? And I was with my homeboy, Trail, and then my other friend, Justin, who goes by Jay Tillo. And we were actually having a content night. And I believe that the day before, because we had planned the content night, so I believe the day before, it might have been the day of, I can't necessarily remember. But we were just kind of like in the ideation process of what each of us was going to do, what we were going to capture, different things like that. And it had came across because Blackberry is a love song.
Hmm.
And I had this idea several days before Valentine's Day. So I'm like, ooh, to kind of give Blackberry another resurgence, just like how it had been prior before, you know what I'm saying, in December and January. Let me just go ahead and release a different version of the song to kind of keep shedding a light on the same song.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Since people are really loving it so much. So I came out with the chopped and screwed, and that chopped and screwed did really well. But when I tell you that it really, that right there really electrified Blackberry. When I released that, the streams on Blackberry and the reception on Blackberry has been like, it's been like no other song I ever released.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's.
And
Go ahead.
and then also since then, an R&B influencer by the name of what is his name? Direct Music. He is a famous R&B influencer on Instagram. He shouts out basically R&B music, new R&B music of the time. It could be people who are already in the industry, people who are up and coming. He sheds a light. He sheds a light on it all. So he recently put me in one of his reels, and if you're not listening to this song, you should be type of thing. And since then, Blackberry has been, it's been doing fantastic. Like, I've gotten a lot of love on the song. I have people hit me up in my DMs, tell me, "Oh, I heard your song Blackberry. I love it." On Spotify, it's doing great numbers. On Apple Music, it's doing great numbers. So I'm just glad that like the song is getting the recognition and the love that it deserves.
Yeah.
Because it's really, I'm long-winded because I love talking about this, but that song is a really beautiful song about a really beautiful experience, and it's about a woman. So, and she's beautiful, inside and out. And the fact that people gravitate towards that, it's just like, I'm just glad that I shared it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I love being able to do that, to have the two versions of the song, because it definitely opens it up to, especially the chopped version, because if people hear that, then they usually know that there's an original version somewhere. So they usually go to
Right.
look for the original version after they hear that version of it. So I think that's super unique. And I've also never, well, I will say, usually when I think of chopped and slopped, I think of hip hop. I think of like Dirty South,
Yes.
like H Town, like Pimp C and Bun B. Like that's what I think of. So like to do it with an R&B record is super unique. I don't know if anybody else has done it with R&B. They probably have, but I don't know off the top of my head. So I think you doing that is like super cool, honestly.
Thank you. I
So
appreciate that.
yeah,
R&B artists who have done it that I know of is Brent Faiyaz.
okay,
Brent Faiyaz. And then there's been hints of chopped and slop, but they never really called it that
yeah,
in like the early 2000s, 90s going into the early 2000s. I think that this is a really cool preview into what's coming next as far as the project that I'm currently working
yeah.
on. So.
Well, that kind of leads me into the next question, which is what is next for you? You know, is it another single to start with before the project, or you're just kind of working things out and getting things ready to start pushing the album whenever it's done?
Yes, so I'm actually still in the ideation process of the project. I'm still getting together sounds, which I'm very intentional about because I feel like I possessed a sound where you just, as the listener, you just kind of get sucked in. If you listen to Blackberry, it kind of puts you in a trance almost. So I'm being intentional with the sounds that I'm choosing and the way that the mixes sound and the samples that I'm using and different things like that. But also with this project, I tapped into more of my poetic side because how I began writing was actually from poetry. So I am being more intentional when it comes to the way that I write and coming more from a spoken word perspective. Mm. And when it comes to when the project is coming out, honestly, I can't even tell you. I can't even give you a date just yet. I wouldn't say it's going to be this year. However, I do plan to release at least 2 more songs prior to the year ending. And then the project could be slated for a spring release of 2025.
Yeah. So we might be about a year out.
I take my time, but
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? The people love Blackberry, so I want to give people more to listen to as to what's next.
Yeah. I love that, man. I think we also discussed that the first time around, that you're very comfortable in being able to take that time to really carve it out exactly how you want. And I think that's just the best way to do it because the music really hits even more with people and resonates more because the time has been put in to tell those stories the way that you envision. So yeah, man, I'm definitely excited to see, you know, whatever songs, and then when the time comes, man, I'm excited for the project. So yes. It'll be awesome.
I would definitely say that as an artist, I'm definitely more conceptual instead of quantity over quality.
Yeah.
So I'm very driven in the sense of it's my art, and I want to be able to paint the picture and provide you guys with the full vision instead of bits and pieces of the vision and spamming potential fans or listeners. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly, man. That's a great way to do it, I'd say. And is there anything else, maybe even outside of music, that you want to let people know about, or anything you're excited about that is coming up, maybe this summer or sometime soon?
I wouldn't even say sometime soon, but I did. Okay. So I am very spiritual, and last month I fasted for a week, and for some reason I just felt as though that I was being called to do something, but I didn't necessarily know what that was. So I fasted for about a week, and it was revealed to me another business venture. I'm not going to get into what it is just yet because it's still in the very beginning stages, and a lot of planning is still going on. and regarding that. However, within the next 2.5 years or so, I do plan to have a release and to introduce something in the world of Reesie Woods. It's something tangible, something that you could have in your hands, and something that you could use, and something that I feel as though I represent in regarding self-care, which I do 100% believe that it is important for men to get into and definitely should make important. And also we should just implement because we deserve it as well. So it's going to be something along the lines of self-care, and the way that we look and the way that we present ourselves. So I'm not going to go too much into it, but I'm going to just leave it at that.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to be working on it and working towards it. And when it's time for it to be released and when it's time for it to be out, it's going to be the best thing.
Awesome.
And I'm excited for it.
Yeah. Well, I can tell just by the way you're talking about it, man, and congrats on that. And I think whatever it is, it's going to go well, and we'll all have to be on the lookout for it, for sure. So it definitely does sound very exciting. And do you have any final words of wisdom before we get out of here?
Yes, I do, actually. I always love this question. I love this because I always like to end my podcast like this. So I would say that if you are not giving from a place of abundance, please take the time to reevaluate, to hone in on yourself, and to listen to the voice inside of you that is calling you to listen. Quiet out the noise, listen to the voice inside of you, and make sure that you continue to give from a place of happiness and give from a place of abundance. Don't be afraid to set those boundaries for other people not to cross, and to always make sure that you are putting yourself first, because this is your journey. This is not no one else's journey. You are going on this journey for yourself. So I 100% believe in making sure that you are giving from a place of abundance.
Yeah. And always staying true. And man, I know for a fact that you lead by example in that, man, and the way that you carry yourself and the way that you approach everything you do. So once again, dude, I got to say, thanks for coming back. Thanks for doing this part 2. We'll have to do it again soon. Just know you always got a place to come here and chop it up with me,
Absolutely.
Man. And congrats on everything you're doing, bro.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you. I appreciate you for having me, of course. And honestly, this is like home now.
Absolutely, dude. Thanks, everyone, for listening today. That was episode 207. We'll be back this time next week. As always, hit the support button on your podcast streaming platform if you'd like to send any funds. And feel free to leave us that 5-star rating if you enjoyed today's episode. So we'll see you then. Thanks, everyone.